Hello, my name is Bobby. I'm an alcohol and drug addict. I'm now clean for 22 years. My story starts when I was 10 years old. My parents would always have adult parties, and I would walk around curiously looking for attention. On one party, I spotted a bottle of champagne. And of course, I was curious, and I asked my parents if I could have a sip, and my parents told me no. So I snuck a sip. And they got on to me, but I got attention, so I enjoyed it. So that's how I started drinking. Maybe a year later or so, I took a sip of beer and I enjoyed it. And for many years, I was always the only deaf person. No one else around me knew how to sign. So communication was a very hard barrier for us. So I would look for attention, and so I would get in trouble, and that would bring me attention. This encouraged me to drink more. When I drank alcohol, I felt like I had a connection with other people. It didn't matter at that point if I was deaf or not. I had older cousins, and they didn't really care if I drank, and we would always drive around and drink beer and just be silly. In a week's time, I'd have, a couple of beers. It was no big deal. On the weekend, I'd have about half a case. Around 12 beers or so. On the weekend, I would drink more because we would do more. We'd go out and have fun. And I felt like I belonged. My family were casual drinkers. They didn't drink all crazy and everything. And when I drank, I felt like I was a part of them, which increased my drinking. Before, it was always awkward to hang out with my friends because I was deaf, they were hearing, we didn't really have a connection. But as soon as I started drinking, it was like an instant connection. And we would do competitions like I drink a beer and they would drink a beer. And that increased my drinking. On weekends, I would get drunk, I would walk stumbling, I would drive around. Luckily, I never got caught. But still, it was not very smart of me to be driving while I'm drunk. Beer turned into whiskey. And that turned into hard whiskey. And that turned into me drinking more. And I would get drunk. And I would feel connected to my friends, to my family, to other adults. The adults never knew I was drunk. They just thought I was drinking casually. They had no idea. They had no idea of how heavy of a drinker I was. My brother and sisters knew. My friends knew. They were just like me. We would drink a lot. But my parents, no idea. It went straight over their head. I tell them, oh yeah, I'm fine. But then the minute they were not looking, I would drink more. It was not that great of me to do. One time I was out driving and my car spun out right in the middle of the intersection. I didn't get in an accident and I was lucky, but I didn't care. I would go to work and sometimes I wouldn't show up for work. I'd be like, whatever. And I'd go out and party on boats all day. We'd be out drinking beer, swimming in the water. Think about it, I'm swimming in the water while I'm drunk. And I'd go to work the next day, and my boss would chew me out and say, you weren't here yesterday. And, once again, I didn't care. So he would say, you're fired. I'd be like, I'm not fired, I quit. And that was just me when I was drunk. I would take drugs every once in a while, like marijuana. me and my brother would get high. We would drink, do drugs. Because that would give us a connection. On the weekends, we would drink heavy, but during the week we would drink even more heavier, like 1 case of beer during the week. And on the weekend, another case of beer. Plus whiskey. Plus smoking marijuana. Every single week. Continuously. And then I graduated high school. And I went off to the National Institute of Technology for the Deaf. And my first quarter, I really just bunkered down and focused on my schooling. And my GPA was a 4.0. However, my second quarter, I started to get into partying, like fraternity parties. And I'd go and I would drink and I would just put school to the wayside. My GPA went from a 4.0 to a 0.0 because I would just ignore school and I would just go party. And I got into cocaine, popping pills, heavy drugs. I tried heroin one time, but that was it. It wasn't really for me. But however, the other drugs I was really into, plus beer and whiskey. I would do it at work, I would do it at college, I would do it at parties. I started stealing to help pay for the beer and the drugs. Sometimes I'd work with a dealer. I would help him drive and get the cocaine and cut it up and then sell it. Sometimes I would drink up to 2 cases of beer in a week. Plus the whiskey, pot, coke. All just for a connection. I didn't care about my health. It was more important for me to fit in. I had 3 different types of behaviors. I had the one around my family, and they knew I drank, but they thought I drank lightly. They didn't know I did drugs, nothing like that. They just thought I was a casual drinker. And that was my family. The second group, I would drink heavy, but they didn't know I did drugs. I just drink very heavy and get drunk. The third group, I did everything, the drugs and the drinking. And I would always try to adjust my behaviors to the different groups. It put a lot of pressure on me, and I'd act one way around my family, another way around, with the partying and doing everything, and I'd adjust my behavior back to the family. And it was like a whirlwind. I would steal money, I would work. It was a ton of pressure. Finally, a friend came up to me and said, "You really need serious help. You need to go to therapy." I said, "No, who's going to help me?" And he told me my family would help me. And I was like, no way. No way am I telling my family. They don't know I party. They don't know I do all these things. But my friend reminded me that it didn't matter. They're my blood, that they will help me no matter what. So of course I started freaking out, and he told me to call him in the morning and ask for help and go sit down with them. So in the morning around 8 o'clock, I called them, TTY at the time. So we typed, and I said, "Hey, can we meet?" And they said, "Yeah, come on over." So I drove, I'm all nervous, and my friend went with me, and we got in my house, and we went inside, and my parents sat across from me and my friend. And I was just sweating nervous. My friend convinced me to finally tell them, and I said, "I think I have a problem." My parents were like, all right, well, what's the problem?" And I was like, "Well, I think I drink too much." My family said, "Well, what do you want us to do? It's all right. You want to go to therapy?" And I was like, "Where?" And they're like, "It doesn't matter, we'll call for you." And I was like, all right. And, I felt a little bit of relief from that. So my family made some calls and found a place in Washington, D.C., therapy center. And I went there.